But we were discussing how this injury to Seth Rollins may have thrown the entire situation with the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania into complete chaos. So let's just set the stage on what happened. So Seth Rollins was wrestling Jinder Mahal in this incredibly important match that had to happen on Monday Night Raw. And he, according to Sean Ross Sapp from Fightful, tore his MCL, which is the ligament that runs on the inside of your knee, and also tore his meniscus, which is there's two meniscuses inside your knee. It's the padding that keeps the bones from touching. And this injury, well, it's interesting because this isn't your ACL. The ACL is the one that kind of runs down the middle and in the front.
That's the big one. That's the big one. And that's like the only good news out of this situation is that is still intact.
Yes.
So it's not a Charlotte Flair situation where he's going to be out 9 months to possibly a year or longer. So,
right.
It all depends on the severity of the MCL and the meniscus injury.
Right. So with an MCL, the longest recovery time on that is 16 weeks, which would obviously be too long. The question is, number one, did he tear this thing all the way?
Right.
If he didn't tear it all the way, there's a good chance he's going to be able to make it back. With all the therapies and things that can be done, especially with stem cell therapy, that thing can heal pretty quickly. A lot of times recovery time can be done in about 6 weeks, which would give him enough time. We're about 10 weeks out that you can recover from that. The question is, will he? And we're going to get an announcement on Monday Night Raw tomorrow, apparently, as long as Sean's report is correct.
Well, I mean, they've already announced that he's going to kick off Raw and address his future as World Heavyweight Champion. So WWE has announced that is happening, which at least shines some validity to Sean's reporting that there's something wrong with Seth Rollins right now.
So we get to play a little speculation game here, Rick.
It's time for everybody's favorite game show, Reckless Speculation.
Yeah. What do you think? What?
Good Lord. Man. So I too was doing some Dr. Googling and looking at the window that I saw for most MCL meniscus type injuries is anywhere from 3 to 12 weeks. So even if it's the 12-week window, you can't keep the World Heavyweight Championship on him. I mean, I guess you could. I guess you could do that if you really wanted to. If you wanted to Roman Reigns the heck out of this thing and just say, screw it. After wrestling literally until the wheels fell off for Seth Rollins, wrestling every house show and every Monday Night Raw and putting the title on the line against literally anybody, including Jinder Mahal, right? You could just park him on the bench and say, hey, winner of the Royal Rumble faces Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, and that'll be his next match, and hope that he gets better. Probably, though, you're not going to do that. And that it all comes down to, what do you think you can do with Seth Rollins? Is there, because this was a slam dunk main event. It was Seth Rollins and it was CM Punk. However they decided to get there, whether Punk won the Royal Rumble or not, that's night one main event. Done, signed, sealed, and delivered. That was more of a put it down and pen than the night two main event, which we still don't know if it's going to be Roman Rock, Roman Cody, triple threat. What are we doing there? We don't know. Seth Rollins and Seth Rollins and CM Punk, that was slam dunk night one, WrestleMania main event. Unless Becky and Rhea, which we'll talk about, got so hot that it just, forced the hand of WWE and they took over that top spot again. But now that may not be on the table. You may still be able to do Rollins versus CM Punk if he can come back in 12 weeks, but I don't think the World Heavyweight Championship is going to be involved unless CM Punk has it somehow. So,
wow.
Could you do? So here's my thought process on this. Let's just say Rollins has to miss a decent chunk of time and he has to drop the World Heavyweight Championship. So what do you do? Luckily for WWE, they have a lot of options. They have a lot of viable options. And I think the easiest one for me, put the World Heavyweight title on the line inside the Royal Rumble. I think that is the easiest. I think that is the easiest solution is you put the title on the line in the Royal Rumble, and then it comes down to 3 dudes. Could you imagine the final 3 being Drew McIntyre, who's been chasing that thing, Cody Rhodes, who's been trying to finish any damn story he could possibly, and then CM Punk is standing right there. So you got Punk, you got Drew, you've got Cody, and you know what? Yeah, you have Punk win the dang thing, and if you think Seth can get back in time, then all of a sudden Seth is the challenger for CM Punk somehow at WrestleMania. And you could do Punk and Drew at Elimination Chamber. If not, maybe you hold off and wait till Seth can come back after WrestleMania, unfortunately, and you do Drew and CM Punk after their face-off just a couple weeks back. You can do that at WrestleMania. There's a lot of options that they could go that way. Or they could have Damian Priest cash in. Maybe they completely pivot altogether and they have Sami Zayn win the Royal Rumble, and you could do Zayn and Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. Wow, they have so many organic over baby faces right now on Raw. You never, ever, 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 ever want to see an injury to somebody like, well, an injury to anybody, but an injury to Seth Rollins, especially ahead of WrestleMania season, where it finally looked like he had his locked, sealed, and delivered main event match, marquee match against CM Punk. But if there was ever a time in WWE's history to have this is a pretty good time because Triple H is set up really nice right now.
Here was my thought of what I would probably do, because I think that it is a little too risky to keep the title on him. I think there's a good chance he could get back and he'd be okay. And the one thing about an MCL injury is that you can kind of brace up, and by that time period, he could probably cover it, especially if he did like a triple threat match or something. But I think it's a little too much of a risk. But
here's the thing though, real quick on that. And I've heard a lot of people say, oh, well, he's done this before. He's had similar knee injuries. He can get back. All the medical, advancements that have been made, all of that. And everything you said, 100% true. Seth has got a lot of wear and tear.
Yep.
He's already dealing with a back injury, right? He's already been dealing with, obviously, knee problems in the past. And he is a heck of a lot older now. So, the last thing that you want to do, especially if you're Seth Rollins, who, by the way, is on a contract year, the last thing that you want to do is jeopardize your future in the business by coming back too soon.
Yeah.
For something like a WrestleMania. And then you go out and then guess what? You go out there, your MCL's not up to snuff, and then you tear your ACL.
Yeah.
And then the match, the main event of WrestleMania is FUBARD. Basically.
Right. So
if you don't know what that stands for, Google it, kids. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So as I would say, it would be a major risk to do that. I think that what the safe way to do this would be to take the title off of him and you just make it the main event at Elimination Chamber. And there now, all of a sudden, now you've got a huge main event at Elimination Chamber. And then you have time to see if Seth recovers. You're going to be able to get to March with whoever. And if you want to make CM Punk the champion, that's fine. And of course, you have other options there too. But if let's say, and even if you don't want to make CM Punk the champ, well, you can end up with a triple threat if Rollins gets back, and if not, so be it. But you'd have a chance to make. You're in a new place in Australia, and you blow that Elimination Chamber main event up, and all of a sudden now everybody wants to watch Elimination Chamber because you're going to get a new world heavyweight champion, and what's next? And if it turns out that Seth's injury isn't that bad, now you can get back to that pretty easily. So I think that if it were me, I think that's the route that I'd take, because it kind of leaves you a path to get Seth back in there if he's okay. And, plus you could possibly you could do something like LA Knight wins that and Damian Priest cashes in down there too, and do something crazy like that just to screw around. So,
yeah. And that's the thing with the Rumble is, and that's kind of the idea I like with putting the belt on the line inside the Royal Rumble. If Seth has to relinquish it, is, you can really go with anybody. You can have somebody pull off a shock. I mean, LA Knight gets pinned by Roman Reigns in, the match to open up the show for the World Heavyweight Championship, or excuse me, for the WWE Championship. And then he comes out and he wins the World Heavyweight title in the Royal Rumble. You could do something like that. You could pull off a surprise move. You could do the same thing with Orton, or you could do the same thing with AJ Styles for all I'm concerned. Just from an actual storyline purpose, I think it makes a lot more sense if it is somebody on Monday Night Raw, if it is somebody like CM Punk, because I don't think Punk was ever going to win that match against Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. I think Rollins,
really,
I don't think he was.
Wow.
Because how many times can you do that to Seth where you're like, hey, we're bringing in this new guy. We're going to have you work a bunch of matches with him and you're going to lose all of them. Like, how many they did that, he'd had his match with Edge. He did his whole feud with Edge and they did that. His whole story leading up to WrestleMania is that, when Cody Rhodes came back was that, nobody can sniff his jock and this, that, and the other thing. And he'll beat anybody who puts in front of him. And then Cody comes out there and beats him in his first match back and then comes back and beats him 2 more times. He put over Cesaro at WrestleMania. There was a streak there where he lost like 3 or 4 straight WrestleMania matches. Like, you're really going to have the guy who spent the last decade just defecating all over Seth Rollins and this company any chance that he could get, including on national television? You're going to come back and put him over on your golden boy in the main event of WrestleMania? I don't think so. I don't think Punk was ever going to win that match. Just him winning the Royal Rumble and then getting that match, that's enough for him, I think. I don't know. I don't want to put words in the guy's mouth. I don't know him from Adam. I've never talked to him. I'm hoping he wins the Royal Rumble so I get to ask him a question in the press conference. But regardless, I don't think he was ever going to win that match. So if you have him win it at the Royal Rumble, you have him win the World Heavyweight title, which would be so poetic, almost 10 years to the day that he should have won the Royal Rumble, and he ended up walking out of the company. He comes back in his first official match back with WWE on television and wins the Royal Rumble, wins the World Heavyweight Championship, punches his ticket to the main event of WrestleMania. Then you can have Rollins pull his Messiah miracle comeback and beat CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship. And I like this because it gives you enough time where you can have CM Punk defend the belt at Elimination Chamber and at least get a successful title defense before dropping it at WrestleMania.
Man, interesting possibility. God, that is just, it's funny, Rick. Just thinking back to about 2 years ago where we had a barren main event scene in WWE, and now here we are. Yeah. Here we are.
I wouldn't be opposed to having that same exact scenario, by the way, if you don't feel like Rollins can come back, if you're not confident, have Drew McIntyre be the guy who wins the Royal Rumble, wins the World Heavyweight Championship, the guy who is doing arguably the best work of his entire career, and then have him defend the belt against CM Punk at WrestleMania, and then you could have Punk win it there.
Or Seth Rollins is just going to walk out and say, I'm good. Screw y'all. Let's go.
And then he'll get cashed in on Damian Priest. That's exactly what's going to happen. It's either I have to relinquish it, or he's going to do his whole, I'm fine, ha, 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 laugh, this, that, and the other thing. And then Damian Priest actually comes down on him, gives him a chop block, hits him with the briefcase, maybe gives him, Heaven's Gate or whatever the heck his finisher is called, and pins him and walks away with the World Heavyweight title. And then I don't know what you're doing at that point because, do you do Damian Priest and Drew? Do you have Priest immediately just drop it inside Elimination Chamber? Like, the more I think about it, I don't like the idea of Damian cashing in because I don't think Damian's going to get a very long run if he does cash in. Although right now I don't get the feeling like he's going to be successfully cashing in anyway. So maybe at least that would be a little gift to him. But I like the idea of putting it on in the Royal Rumble. I think it just gives you so many more possibilities, and it just makes that match so much like that's already, big and hyped even that much better. And isn't that what WWE is all about, is making things bigger and better?
Yeah. Or could have R-Truth steal the case and win the championship. But, that would be a little too crazy.
This is funny because we're talking about, Drew possibly winning the title here or Damian winning the title here. But when Drew was about to win the championship for the first time against Brock Lesnar, I actually had a brilliant idea to put the title on R-Truth, in the run up to that, with Drew McIntyre's assistance, having him beat Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. So I've been there before, right? I've been there. The idea of let's belt this man for a day and have him get destroyed by, in the title rematch. But I love R-Truth. Everybody loves R-Truth. That man deserves a moment in the sun eventually.
He is a national treasure, is what that man is.
You could do if you. All right,
R-Truth wins the Royal Rumble, but we could do this all day.
We could, but no, you have Damian Priest cash in. R-Truth doesn't win the Royal Rumble, but you could have this whole story between R-Truth and the Judgment Day lead to Damian Priest defending the World Heavyweight Championship against R-Truth at WrestleMania. You could do that if you really wanted to.
Oh, dear God. Wow. Okay.
And here's the thing. You sit there and you go, what are you talking about? What are you doing? I guarantee you that crowd would be electric for that match. That crowd would be on their feet because R-Truth is that over.
You're right. You're right, Rick Ucchino.
Of course I am.
You are.
Of course I am.
Let's take a break, everybody, shall we? Before Rick and I destroy our brains and turn them into pro wrestling mush.
Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt.